Hey, Mike. What? Who's got next?
What's good, y'all? It's your man Hezo. Welcome back to the Blacktop, where I always got next, you feel me? So initially I had another video that I planned on dropping either today or tomorrow that is not Hawks related. It was actually just gonna be a fun topic. But after seeing the breaking news yesterday about McMillan, I know a lot of y'all Hawks fans out there want to know my opinion on it, and y'all probably already know. But I want to dive into all that. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Drop a like on the video. Help me grow my channel out. And let's get right into it. So if you don't already know and you live under a rock, the Hawks have finally, and I mean finally, fired Nate McMillan. And I think I speak for all Hawks fans, if not 95% of Hawks fans, when I say thank God, man. Thank God. It is about damn time, right? This has been a long time coming. And this is not a shot at Nate McMillan or anything, but he just was not the right coach for this team, man. Y'all already, again, y'all know how I felt about Nate McMillan. I reiterated it in streams, in recaps, constantly talking about Nate McMillan and the fact that the Hawks will never go anywhere as long as Nate McMillan is the head coach of this team. We finally got our prayers answered, our wishes answered, and Nate McMillan is out the door. So again, my first initial reaction was like, yes, thank God, man. I was excited. I really was excited. Have y'all seen the Antonio Brown video whenever he got cut from the, I think it was from the Raiders, when he ran outside and was sprinting around his yard?
Hey, Lance, let me see it.
Look up Adam Schefter.
The Raiders free!
Bro,
Oh! Let's go!
oh, fucking nigga.
That's how I felt yesterday when I got this breaking news. Now, first thing I want to point out is I know most people and a lot of people are pointing at Trey and saying that, oh, he's a coach killer and this is now going to be his third head coach since he's been in the league. And I want to ask y'all, you know, your people out there, the fans out there that say Trey is a coach killer and that say that this is all Trae Young's fault and everything. Why is it always that a player has to get the blame as opposed to just the coach underachieving? I mean, we brought in a DeJounte Murray, an all-star, and have underachieved this year, underachieved last year. Yes, everybody wants to hold on to that Eastern Conference Finals run, man, but it was a Cinderella run. I'm not going to get into that. Since that Eastern Conference Finals run, Nate McMillan has been mediocre as a coach. When you look at Nate McMillan's coach and play style, he runs isolation. He doesn't play young guys, and we've seen that be a kind of a rippling effect with some of his past teams. When you look at teams like the Pacers, that's how they played as well, and it did not work out. Now, Nate McMillan was a great player, you know, back in the whatever era he played in, was the 80s, I think 80s and 90s, whatever it was. He was a great player in that area. He was a defensive point guard, all that. He was a decent coach early on in his career, but he's not formidable for a new age, you know, a young team like Atlanta. When you don't hold players accountable, you don't run a right offensive set, you can't get a rotation right. It was a long time coming for this man, and I know that, and part of that is on the Hawks because he had initially said that he wanted to step down back in December after that whole thing that went on between him and Trey, and I said my opinion on that. I'm not going to go into that anymore. But he initially wanted to step down, and the Hawks really didn't want him to. They believed in him. They wanted him as their guy, and that has kind of bit them in the ass going forward because we're now sitting at a game under 500 right after the All-Star break with not a lot of basketball left to make up in this season. We now have to see what this team is truly made of with a new voice and a new head coach. Now, who's going to be the new head coach going forward, right? I know the report that Woj came out and said, and Shams also has said that Quinn Snyder is one of the leading candidates, and then they are looking to hire immediately in season, which is kind of weird to me because most of the time when a coach gets fired, the interim coach takes over and then it's addressed in the offseason. Now we know Joe Prunty is going to take over as the head coach. That's cool. But hiring in season is kind of a head scratcher for me. I don't know if I agree with that. I think you just need to finish out the season with Joe Prunty as the head coach, as the interim head coach, and then look to address it in the offseason. So Quinn Snyder is a name. I know Kenny Atkinson from Golden State has been a name as well. And then the assistant manager from the Bucks, I can't remember his name, forgive me for that. But from what I've read from the reports is those three are the kind of the candidates at the top of the Hawks list. Now a lot of people are out there speculating on Trae Young's Instagram post. He's wearing a Steve Nash jersey, right? Like, I'm not going to speculate too much on that. I don't think that's him foreshadowing that he wants Steve Nash as the head coach. Steve Nash was not a great head coach when he was with Brooklyn. We saw that they had turned their team around once that he got fired under Jock Vaughn. I don't think he's the right coach for this team. I don't know who the right coach is for this team. But the first name that comes to my mind that I would be ecstatic if we got, and I know that it comes with a lot, that's Ime Udoka. And I know a lot of you guys have talked about this in stream with me. Ime Udoka is the perfect coach for this team because of the ability for him, not really ability, but the way he holds players accountable, this development, the player development, and just the way he is as a coach, man. He was a great coach for the Celtics last year. And I think that that's what Atlanta needs. Now, I would not be opposed to Quinn Snyder. I would not be opposed to Kenny Atkinson. I wouldn't be opposed to those guys. But those are guys that have been fired with tenures with other teams. So I look at that to where these guys haven't won a championship. Oh, no, now Kenny Atkinson obviously won a championship last year with the Warriors on the, being an assistant coach. But these coaches never won a championship. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they never won a championship as the head coach. So I'm looking at that. Now, Ime Udoka obviously hasn't either. But in his first season with the Celtics, he got them to the finals. He got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum how to figure out how to play together. You have to credit Ime Udoka for that. That's what the Hawks need. For Trey and DeJounte to be maximized to their fullest potential, we need a guy like Ime Udoka. And for Trey to be more willing to play off ball and everything. Now, I got a lot of criticism for the video I posted, talking about Trae Young. And a lot of you guys took that out of context. And it is what it is. Like, I even had a couple people unsubscribe to me. It is what it is, man. I ain't tripping. That was just my opinion. If you took that the wrong way, again, that's not my problem. But a lot of people took that video out of context and looked at it as me slandering Trey and everything like that. And again, I'm not gonna get into all that. It was my opinion. But when I look at a guy like Trey, for him to be fully maximized, he does need the right coach in place with the right system. And I think Ime Udoka would get the fullest out of Trey in terms of making him move off ball more and holding him more accountable, which is something that Nate McMillan did not do. Look, man, this team has a lot of talent from top to bottom on the roster, especially with the acquisition of Saddiq Bey at the trade deadline. But unless we have the right coach at the helm, we're not going to go anywhere. Maybe we can make a Cinderella type run that we made 2 years ago and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know how realistic that is. We're sitting at number 8. We're sitting at like 4 or 5 games. I can't remember what it was back from the 6th seed. I think if we get to the 6th seed, we can be in good shape. But we got to get at least to 6 because I think if we get to 7 or 8, we are still going to lose in the first round. But if we get to 6, we really have a shot. Now, with that being said, again, how realistic is that? I do not know. There's only about 24 games left in the season, so we really need to get the right voice in here and get the right guy to get this team going, to make this team right going forward in terms of the offense and the defense, and really just turning us back into a contender, an Eastern Conference contender, like we have seen in that Eastern Conference Finals run, which again, I think was an anomaly, but that's just me. But then at the end of the day, I do think the Hawks need to wait until the offseason to make their hire for their guy going forward. Now, what does this move do for the franchise, right? I think this is a huge step in the right direction. I mean, when you had a guy like Nate McMillan who is clashing with players, was clashing with Trae Young consistently, clashing with John Collins, and even I think clashed with DeJounte Murray a couple times, that's just not the right guy for the job. And I think this is step one to turning Atlanta back into the team that can be a threat in the Eastern Conference, like I just stated. But I think it needs to wait till the offseason. But either way, credit to Landry Fields for getting this done. And it sounds like, oh, we just got a deal done. No, but this is a huge, huge step in the right direction. And the Hawks have got slandered for it, man. Trae Young's got slandered for it, but it is what it is, man. We're going to be in the media. The Hawks are going to be in the media, getting ate up, getting slandered, all that, and you just got to deal with it at this point until you start to get and win some ball games and really get back on that get back on track to to win playoff games and everything like that. Like we saw a couple years ago. We're going to be in the media in a negative way, and hopefully we can get a new voice in here and really turn it around and kind of start over. Now, the biggest question before I get out of here, the biggest question that I have is that if the next coach who comes in here does not work out and we see kind of the same type of things that we're seeing now for the rest of this season and maybe next season after they make the hire, if it remains the same, what's the next step from there going forward? I don't know, man. I really don't. You may have to start shopping some guys. That's going to be a tough question and a tough thing to answer, is if this team does not turn around and doesn't get back on track to where they should be with a new coach and they keep those same type of bad habits, it's going to be a big eyebrow raise, and it's going to really, people are going to start pointing the finger at the players more than the coach, and it's going to be a big thing that's going to be talked about is where does Atlanta go from there if everything remains the same and nothing changes? We'll see about that. If it comes to that, we'll deal with that when it comes to that. And I'll talk about that if it does come to that. I'm gonna pretty much leave it there, man. Not too much more to go into for this topic. I know a lot of you guys, again, are out, a lot of you guys out there are extremely happy as well as I am. We finally got our wish as Hawks fans, and Nate McMillan is out the door. So hopefully we can get the right guy in here for the job and start to win some ball games this season and next season, and maybe, just maybe, make that championship run that all of us Hawks fans out there want to see. Leave your thoughts down in the comments, man. I'm gonna get on up out of here. I will catch y'all next episode.